Welcome, everyone. My name is David Bowders. I'm CEO of TradeHounds. I'm here today with Barry Powell. Barry is the CEO of Siemens. Welcome, Barry.
Thank you, David. Glad to be here. And again, we're at the NEMA annual meeting, an important meeting, not just for Siemens electrical products, but for the whole industry, including the manufacturers, the distributors, and the contractors that you work with.
Yeah, I think, some of the big themes that we're seeing here at NEMA are really around innovation, and obviously the pace of change continues to accelerate in terms of new products, in terms of new technology. There's also a big demographic change which is coming, and we know that there's about half of the electrician workforce out there is going to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think one of the challenges that we're hearing about for manufacturers is how do we connect to this next generation? How do we build awareness? How do we build preference for a new generation of electricians? Some of your thoughts?
The number I've heard, the average age of an electrician in the U.S. is 57. And the head of NECA, the National Electrical Contractors today, said, hey, they're 20,000 short in their union membership, and the overall shortage is much larger. And we see an issue, there's a huge demand for electrification across the whole economy, but there's a shortage of workers, not just electricians, but also electrical experts and distributors and our own manufacturing operations. So what Siemens has been focused on is, hey, how do we engage that next generation, at school and with, what unique tools? And a couple things I think we're doing unique to the industry. First of all, we're going to trade schools. We have a program called Siemens Educates America. We've gone to literally dozens and dozens of trade schools across the country, bringing in samples of Siemens equipment and training them on how to use it. But not just traditional training. I think we all know I've got 20-something kids, and how they learn is very different from how mom and dad learned. And so things like virtual reality, AR, things like 3D digital instructions from our partner Built, we're using to try to train that next generation workforce.
And really with TradeHounds, about 70% of our users are under the age of 35, 20% of them speak Spanish. So there's a cultural change going on even within the electrician community. I think one of the challenges for manufacturers has been, how do we connect with these people? How do we get in front of them? In the old days, you had sports and you had, dinners and live events that helped you to really connect with people. And that's true not only for the manufacturer, but obviously for your channel partners. Today, so much of these people's lives is digital. It's creating a real challenge, I think, for manufacturers to reach them.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge and an opportunity both. I think to meet that demographic, we've really diversified our workforce. Again, I think we're fortunate at Siemens. We have a very strong contingent of employees that worked in factories in Mexico that have come to the U.S. and have taken various leadership roles. Victor Corrales, who runs our marketing organization, Ana Franco, who runs product management, several of our sales leaders. So that cultural connection is there. But the other point you make is the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings today, they're used to learning in a more digital environment. And we've had to, balance that in-person touch because we can't scale it to get everywhere with much more digital training. That makes it, gives us a multiplying effect and gets us in front of more people.
I think one of the challenges also is where do you put content? Because, so much of the learning that goes on today, it's less about structured learning and more about unstructured or just-in-time learning. And that creates a new both opportunity and also a challenge for manufacturers. It's one thing to host content on your intranet or your, learning portal for your channel partners or for your customers, but so often there's an opportunity to put that content where it's going to be seen, on the job, that sort of thing.
Right, and I think that's where Siemens' partnership with TradeHounds works very, very well. We have the opportunity to leverage some of the really creative people in our marketing organization working with you to get pieces of content of interest where people can kind of self-consume it versus, reaching out to a Siemens website. We know we're going to have limited reach there, and there's platforms that they're on day to day, Instagram, TikTok, et cetera. And we've seen a lot of, improved brand recognition for our electrical products by going to some of those platforms that the next generation workforce utilizes day to day.
I think one of the challenges that we're seeing for manufacturers is the shift in preference of this generation away from, let's say, corporate speak and in favor of what we call user-generated content or peer-generated content. And I think that's really making it interesting for manufacturers who are used to being able to, let's say, strictly control what's being said and how it's being said, and really having to be more community-based, I think, in terms of how people learn about their products and understand them.
One thing we've done with our distributor base, yes, we still have our executive meetings with their presidents and their executives, but we set up a program in the last 5 or 7 years called C+. And that is a program where we bring electrical gear specialists, kind of the blue collar, day in and day out people working with our products in from distributors across the country. And we train them, but this isn't just a one-way, hey, Siemens speaks and they listen. It has become almost, we call it a community or a fraternity, where they give us feedback. And not only do they give us feedback, they have seen over the years, we've taken their feedback and we spend like the first half an hour of the meeting, hey, here's what we've done from what you told us. And it's been very, very positive because they've seen, hey, you listened to me. And so I think our opportunity now is, hey, how do I take that from our distributor community out to the electrical contractor community? And that's the next area of focus for us.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot. We just interviewed Wes Smith of NAED, and we're talking about the challenges distributors are having with this demographic shift. And one of the things we're seeing is distributors have invested in this trail of tears. They've invested millions of dollars in their e-commerce sites, and they're stuck in the single-digit adoption rates. And what our TradeHounds users are telling us is the reason they're frustrated with distributor websites is because they typically buy from 5 or 7 different distributors. They don't want to navigate 5 or 7 different pathways to find information about product, to be able to source product. And so I think what's changing is that distributors are going to have to really start leveraging their investment in e-commerce to make that discoverable in platforms where the users are.
The reality is there's not a one-stop shop for the contractor. Siemens has come up with corporate-wide, we've launched a tool called Accelerator. And the idea is this is a marketplace where you could bring together various manufacturers, distributors, and let people in one place get everything they need. It is still in its infancy, and we're trying to define out what it means. But I think a use case, again, for the electrical contractor that has to shop 10 different places, wouldn't it be great to go to one marketplace and get everything they need? And again, you might be having the distributor website just linked in with this marketplace,
through API calls,
but there's one upfront interface for them to get everything they need versus going here for hardware, going here for gear, going here for lighting. And that's the reality of their lives today.
And it's been a real focus for TradeHounds has been to bring the ability to source material directly into the app. So our users have been asking us, bring in the distributor supply houses, bring in that API call to their product information so that we can start to buy through a single interface. And so we're really focused heavily in 2025 on how do we get those connections built in so that when a manufacturer provides content that resonates with the user, they can actually source the material directly in app.
Now that's great. I mean, again, there's a huge demand right now for electrification. And one of the biggest things that's going to hold it back is, I'll say, friction in the system. You've got a lot of new people coming in the industry, and the friction between the contractor to the distributor to the manufacturer, we've got to reduce some of that so we can get more done more quickly for the good of the companies, but really for the good of the country. So what you're doing there is absolutely a step in the right direction.
And we always joke that our users don't want to call their parents, let alone their supply house. And so it's been, a real shift in understanding this digital native generation and how differently they think about how they get their materials.
I've got a 23-year-old son and a 26-year-old daughter, and I understand how that next generation operates. There's a lot more texting or interfacing through apps than there is on the day-to-day phone calls.
Well, Barry, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk about Siemens and your investment in the future with this new generation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, David. Appreciate the partnership.
Take care.